I envisaged the end product,
Yeah.
but I don't think I thought about the fact that I would one day be leading a team. You know, the idea of being someone's boss. That was a really big hurdle for me to get over and something that I still struggle with on the daily.
In your leadership journey, what has been some of the biggest lessons you've learned along the way?
You are your brand. And
You're listening to The Ultimate Leader's Edge, where we explore the mindset and methods behind great leadership. I'm Paulette Kolarz, and in each episode we talk with leaders who've learned how to balance performance with purpose and growth with culture. Today I'm speaking with Paul Vasileff, founder and creative director of Paul Vasileff, a couture fashion house that has captured hearts around the world. From humble beginnings in Adelaide to international acclaim, Paul's story is one of vision, courage and relentless pursuit of excellence. In this episode, Paul shares what it means to lead through creativity, how to build a world-class team around your vision, and the lessons he's learned around leadership, vulnerability, and success. It is absolutely beyond my excitement levels to have the beautiful Paul with me. And when I say beautiful, I mean the humblest, the most generous soul on the planet that I know. And so I'm incredibly excited to hear more about your story and more about your journey and some of your lessons that we can pass on to our listeners. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to start off with your leadership journey, a little bit about, I guess, you at that young age, what got you into something that is a global phenomenon. Give me the little Paul story of what got you into the industry and to the space that you're in.
So I started Paul Vasileff when I was 17, but really my journey started much before that. I was around 3 when I made my first dress.
Yeah.
You know, at that time I had no idea about fashion, what fashion was, that fashion design was even a job. I just loved making things. I still am a massive Disney fan. And I think I used to be around my grandmother who sewed, seeing her take something that was flat and making something 3D out of it, and I was mesmerized by that, and then also seeing that in Disney films like Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella come to life. And I think what that moment in Cinderella, particularly where she gets her gown, the story element of that, it's about what happens to the character. It's that transformation, that becoming the best version of yourself, and that reward. And I loved that concept of that fashion can transform. And I saw it because I would make my friends dresses, and I would see these regular people become, standing up straighter, and the way they would spin and spin around, and it was a really great feeling. So to give that to people is really wonderful. So taking my friends and really giving them that confidence boost, and when I would make dresses for school formals and things, the wow factor, and they would get best dressed on the night, and their circle of friends all saw the dress and they wanted dresses, and it kind of just snowballed from there. But the first proper dress I made was at age 11. And then it just kind of was like word of mouth. But after that, another friend saw it and they wanted one, and I did a customized version for her, and then another friend wanted one, and it just kind of grew
from there. And being a global business based here in Adelaide, what are the opportunities with that, and then what are some of the restrictions of that?
So as a young person in Adelaide, particularly at that time, you've got to remember we're talking like 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, there wasn't as much of an industry. The world was not as connected. There was no Wi-Fi, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, So rightly so, people were concerned for me, and a lot of people said, if you're going to pursue this as a career, you're going to need to move interstate or overseas. And I'm very close with my family. I'm very fortunate to have a very strong network of friends and support around me, and that's the reason why I'm here. And so that was really, really hard to hear, that I would have to pursue it was like either choosing my family or my dream. And that was really, really hard. And I was very fortunate to be given the opportunity to study in Milan. And I think going over there just cemented in me that my place was here, and that if I was going to do this as a job, I needed to make it work and do it my way. And I think the reason it has worked is because, thankfully, it could have gone either way, but at the core of it, I was just happy doing the work. So whether I stayed in my parents' lounge room or got my own atelier, it didn't matter. I was just happy doing what I was doing. Thankfully, the vision kind of came to life.
Yeah, yeah. And people don't realise that when we start our businesses, we are at the kitchen table, or we are, you know, taking up the lounge, or we are kind of, you know, they see this end product sometimes and they forget the hustle, they forget the hard work that's put in those early days. How have you found your, I guess, leadership journey from being the sole person who did it through to kind of engaging and building a team today?
Well, I think, you know, starting out, like I said, I didn't know it was a job, so I envisaged the end product, but I don't think I thought about the fact that I would one day be managing a team, leading a team. So as a creative person, that's not something that comes naturally to me in terms of the managing side of leadership. You know, the idea of being someone's boss, that was a really big hurdle for me to get over, and something that I still struggle with on the daily because I have to wear so many different hats. When we talk about challenges, being in Adelaide is somewhat removed from the rest of the fashion industry geographically, so the resources and things that we have are guided by you know, the time differences and getting things here. So fabrics, everything. It's a lot harder to do. But that, I guess, was one of the choices that I made. I knew that if I wanted to stay here, I had to accept certain barriers or limitations and find ways to work around that. So over the years, I've kind of developed solutions for things, I guess. And you do have to be really organised. So when we're talking about fabrics and things, we have to be planning way, like, more advanced than you would normally. But when it comes to staffing, I kind of got to a point where I thought, have I hired all the people that there are?
Is there anyone left?
And because our team was growing very rapidly, and the thing for our business is quality and craftsmanship is at the forefront, and that's something that we can't compromise on. So, but then also we were realising that we were building this really beautiful culture, and so you don't want to disrupt either of those things, and finding people that fit that balance and that want that end goal as well, because everyone in the team, you know, I'm one person, it takes a village, and everyone that's involved has to have that same goal and vision in sight and belief in sight, and wanting to deliver that same Cinderella moment that I want to deliver to the clients. My team all have that same thing.
You don't need it all necessarily, do you?
No.
Because I think it's your team just know those standards of quality, don't they?
And they will not compromise on that, because they all have so much pride in their work. So no matter what, I can trust that everything's going out perfectly, because they all hold themselves accountable to that standard, which is amazing. That's one thing that I know that as a leader I don't have to worry about, because it's like instilled in the culture. That striving for excellence in everything that we do.
Yeah, and that's led by you. I mean, that's part of your essence of them, is holding that same magical moment and passing that on to your client, I think. It's also by your storytelling, because your storytelling, I think, is exceptional, whether it's in a dress, and I think that's translated into people just wanting to be a part of your brand. It's a real privilege. It's something that you aspire to want to do. How did I mean, the creative and the storytelling, tell me about that, because I think that's a critical piece of leadership that sometimes we miss. It's the way you tell stories, I think, is quite magical.
I think a lot of the storytelling came into it naturally, because, like I said, the Disney is something that's always been there for me, and the fairy tales and the storybooks is something that's always inspired my collections and my creativity. And I think over the years I came to the realization that that's what people liked about the brand, was that storytelling element in the collections. And then eventually that kind of bled out into my leadership style and also our communication. And it became that everything that we were doing at Palace Fashion was about storytelling. The embroidery, the fabric choices, even, you know, we love working with suppliers and things for fabrics that have that storytelling element as well. So there's always, that this fabric was woven in this mill, which is one of the oldest mills in Italy, and this is their heritage. So it's really celebrating other stories. So everything has a purpose and a meaning, because I think at the core of it, we see the pieces that we're creating not as just garments, but they are heirlooms. And when you look at it with that lens, there's a lot more magic that comes with that.
You want to savor every moment, don't you?
Exactly.
And it's that piece, because how long does the dress take to make, from concept to on the red carpet, or
it can
be
months. That at a minimum about 150 hours.
Wow.
So when you're talking about the storytelling, it's like in couture particularly, it's not about how quickly we can get something done. It's like the luxury of how long this took.
Yes,
like the stitch that we've used here is a herringbone stitch, and we've done it this way, and so there's a story to the construction of the piece, and the time it takes, and the seamstress that made it, or the many people that made it. So there's a lot woven in there, and so I really try with the team, like when we're doing a collection, at the start of that collection, because there's a theme generally, I'll share that with them so they come along the journey. So when we did A Lover's Kiss, we actually all, we took the day off pretty much, and we turned the sewing room into a theatre, and we watched Ever After with Drew Barrymore, and we had popcorn and everything. It was great, and it just kind of, that was at the start of the collection, and it set the tone for that season, so that everyone can kind of go, all right, I understand the sketches now, I get the colours, I get the mood, and then we can all work creatively to develop that and make it richer.
I love it. And one of the things, that reason I'm so excited to have you, obviously, I think there's so much that businesses can learn, and I know you said creative and leadership, actually getting creative in how we tell a story and getting people to enlist out onto our dream, because whether it's gowns or whether it's a product or service, you need to inspire the same motivation. You've got to present the vision with the same passion that you have about watching that girl spin in a dress. And I just think it's more magical hearing it from when you speak about it. But actually, every business has got to do that. You've got to enlist people to the dream, and you've got to spend time explaining people and showcasing it and getting people to experience it like you have.
I think really considering the client journey for any business is so important, and that's something that I hope that we do really well, because we're constantly developing that. We're always, for anyone in the team, the thing that comes first is the client and the client experience. So what can we do to help tell the story of Paolo Sebastian just from going on a website or just from walking in the front door and sitting in the waiting room? You need to be hit with that magic from different touch points without necessarily even seeing the product.
In your leadership journey, and I know you've got a long way to go still, in terms of lots more years of extraordinary moments, but what has been some of the biggest lessons you've learned along the way? So if you were to go back to your earlier self and give yourself some advice, what would you go back and tell yourself?
I think there's a few points. I think my younger self, I would say, you are your brand. And that's what I say to anyone starting their own business, is you are your brand. And you are your brand when you're at work, and you're your brand when you're at the beach or on the weekend or everywhere. So just consider that and what you want to, I guess, put out as the essence of your brand. And it's not an easy thing for anyone to do, but each day try a little bit harder than you did the day before. And some days you won't be able to achieve that, but that's okay, because then there's always tomorrow to do that. But I think pushing yourself to give that extra 10%, because if quality and craftsmanship is what's at the forefront, then near enough is not good enough. So that push to always do better, be better, I think is really key. And that's something that was instilled in me as a student, and even in subjects that I didn't think had any relevance for me, I still tried my hardest. I didn't always, exceed in those things, but I know that I gave every possible effort that I could, and it kind of instilled in me that discipline to do that and carry that through in my work. So that it just becomes second nature. So when I'm doing something, I know that I need to give it my all, otherwise I don't do it. Or I bench it for when I can give it my all. When we launched our shoe line, that took 2 years to do because it wasn't just do the first sample and then it's done. It was develop until, okay, I'm finally happy with the product. Let's go and release it.
In terms of, I guess, your leadership rhythms, systems, processes, how do you get that big dream and kind of pass it down? So, now I guess in terms of where you're at from a level perspective, how do you kind of dream big, and how do you maybe pass that down to the team?
I really believe in sharing the vision. I speak very openly about what my goals for the business are. So I think you can ask anyone in the team and they know where I'm headed, or I hope they do, and where I want to take the business. But keeping in mind that the journey to get there can be varied, and sometimes we have to take different paths to get there. You have roadblocks, like, for example, COVID. Things like that happen. But COVID was actually one of the best things for our business because it made us kind of take a minute to breathe. Although it kind of stopped the progression of the brand for a moment, as it did for every business, particularly one that's involved in events. But what it meant was training for the team. So it meant that we could take a moment to breathe, look at areas of the business where, okay, someone is an expert in this field, but maybe not so much in this area. So how can we help them with that? And so what we did was we made a training pack for everyone. And it was like being in school again. And we had the mannequins lined up around the room. And because it's never a case that everyone is working on the same style of dress, because every dress is different. So we all made the same thing at the same time, so that we could all bounce off of each other, ask each other questions, learn off of each other, and develop maybe even a better way of doing things. Everyone piled their notes together. What we ended up creating actually was a 150-page manual, which became our training guide. And now we've just done a review of that, and I think that's up to like close to 250 pages now. And I'm really, really proud of that because the whole team has contributed to that. And so now we've got, I guess, a standard and a guide for when we have new people come to the business. This is your training pack, it's done. That is something that a real positive that came out of a negative or a roadblock. It did help us though when we're talking about the end goal. That's one thing that actually, at the time we didn't see it, but it's helping us contribute to that end goal. It's a win or learn, isn't it, a little bit? And it's what I love about you is the world could throw you a big issue and you look at it as, well, this is an opportunity to actually get some consistency and some structures and some training and some documentation in place. I think that's absolutely reflective of the kind of person you are. Is you'll get thrown something and you'll go, well, what's the best we can make of it? And in that instance, it was a great kind of opportunity to set things up for the future. I love how you also try and showcase your team as well. So obviously you are the creative, the person, but you've got a team behind you, and I love the fact that you showcase that a lot. I might get you to talk about that a little bit, in that how you do that and what's ways that you get your team to stand out as well. Well, like I said, it takes a village. I'm one person, and the designs start with me, but to bring those designs to life, I need the team, so that everyone plays their role, and not just the people that are making it, but it's the people in the marketing, people that answer the phones, people that greet at the door. That everyone contributes to the final product and bring that vision to life and the magic to life. So for me, that's really important, and I feel they should be showcased just as much as me. So where we have the opportunity to, The girls don't always love it, but they all came out with me when we showcased in Melbourne Fashion Week, and that was a really great moment for us, and that was a lot of fun. And we kind of try to identify moments where we can. After collection or during collection, actually, we always photograph the making of, and because people love seeing that. Again, it's the storytelling element, and if you appreciate fashion and the craftsmanship, like, they're my favourite photos, actually, more than the finished product, actually. I love seeing the making of photos. Yeah. So seeing the people that are making...
the journey.
Yeah. So we always make sure to document that, showcase that on social media, on all of our platforms, because at the centre of the business, it is craftsmanship. So the craftspeople are the ones that need to be hailed for that.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually think the journey is something that sometimes doesn't happen, in environment. At the moment when motivating team is so important, sometimes we forget those micro moments are just as important, aren't they? Because they keep you kind of, look at this, and then when you go back and look at everything they've put together, it gives a great catalogue of what's contributed to that end result, isn't it?
We actually, when we do collections, we would always do a debrief, but it was kind of like, as a group, what worked, what didn't work. What we've added into that recently is everyone presents the dress that they made or the piece that they made, and they talk about what worked, what didn't. So it's like the full reflection, and then the whole team get to share that. So they get that moment of pride to, even if you did just a small amount on that piece, you get to talk about that. And so that has really, I think, added another layer of pride for them when they are talking about their work. And documenting that has also been very helpful because there's always things that are lessons to be learned and things that are missed, and people then can hold on to those things and go, oh, that was done that way, and Mary worked on that dress. I'm going to talk to her about that, and maybe we can kind of put heads together and collaborate and work out how to solve this problem over here.
That's a great idea, and I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Getting kind of team members talking to each other and reflecting and debriefing in a positive way. So it's not negative; it's actually about how do we do better than we did yesterday, in line with that kind of process. So, and
I think that's one of the things that for me has been so important in my life is the constructive criticism, because discerning that from regular criticism is obviously very important, but constructive criticism is, I think, vital to pushing yourself forward and pushing your business forward. And so that's something that we're quite candid with at work and speak very openly about, fine, that's great. It's always to standard, but how do we want to evolve it, push it forward? What can we take? What can we change?
And it's a humbleness to ask, isn't it? And I know, I think that was something you got from your parents, wasn't it? The constructive criticism lesson. And it really takes something to someone to ask for feedback and then be open to receive it, doesn't it?
And look, it's not always easy. I'm not going to say that it is. But, I think working in this industry as well, you do have to develop a bit of a thick skin, because when you're putting yourself out there every season, you're going to get the good, the bad, the ugly, and you have to be prepared for that. And particularly when you're going on such a open stage, and I guess shutting out the negative for the sake of negative is important, but then looking at the constructive and you can decide to take it on board and you can decide to leave it, but it's just working out what you need to take on.
Yeah, love that. Getting into a creative mind, I mean, it's hard to kind of go, Wednesday I'm going to do that, but it's also so important. So to give yourself time, space, the ability to be creative, whether it's of a gown or whether it's in business or a new idea or a new partnership. What do you do and how do you potentially get creative inspiration?
It's hard. It's a constant struggle. I have in this last year actually carved out Wednesdays for myself to work from home. I did it a few years ago and it never kind of stuck because I felt that I always needed to be at work. But I guess committing to it and saying, okay, no guys, we're not going to schedule anything on for Wednesday and I'm going to just be creative for that day. And like you said, creativity doesn't work that way, and it's very hard
Not always, but you have to give yourself time for it, don't you? Because,
yeah.
I think you can't expect people to come up with ideas and be things if they don't have the time to do it.
No, and a lot of the times I can spend on a Wednesday, or whenever I do it before work, I do it after work, I research, I read, I do whatever I can, I absorb as much information I can, and then it will come out at any given time. I don't know how it's going to come out, when, where, why. It just, hopefully it does. And it can be instantaneous. I can work for research for months, think I have absolutely nothing, and then in an instant it's like, oh no, here's the collection, give me a pen quick. So I try to be really diligent and do as much of that research work and focus as I can.
That's where you get the inspo from for a collection.
Build the inspo and, trying to mood board and really develop in my head the character, where they are, what they're doing, thinking, feeling, how they live, what they would be wearing, and then from there the collection can kind of come. But it's not just designing a collection, it's how we can move the business forward, and the dream and all the other things that we're doing. That's kind of what I'm trying to be able to spend time on the business rather than in the business.
Yeah, when you're doing a show, the show must go on. I'm sure there are 3,000 million things that happen before you hit the runway. How do you deal with pressure? And, for those bits that happen as just crazy beforehand to the bit that comes in and it just looks seamless?
I always say, it's got to get done either way. So we can either stress about it or we can just get it done.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's easier said than done, but I think planning is really important. I have an amazing team, so they know all the things that need to happen, and we're in constant communication, but inevitably things go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, we showcased in Paris, and the day before I ended up in hospital. So that was a big hurdle.
Yeah.
Paris is my dream and presenting there is my dream. So for something to go wrong, it's devastating, but I can't wallow about it in the corner.
Yeah.
The people are still going to come the next day to our presentation at 9 a.m. So something needs to happen. So I think just having a solution-focused approach in everything that we do. Okay, something went wrong, but what can we do to make it right? What can we do to fix this? And I think that's where I'm very lucky with my team, is that everyone is so solution focused. So it's like, okay, what can we do? What resources can we pull? How can we make this work and make sure it's to standard?
If a leader wanted to do something small to improve their culture, what's a small thing they could do?
Look, there are things that we do that I'm told is completely not normal, which are just a basic things that I would consider basic things. Saying hello to all of your team in the morning, walking around and making sure you say hello to everyone. That's something that
you always do.
Yeah, I just naturally do, because I feel like it's rude to not do that.
It's courtesy.
We all have lunch together, so I think that's probably the crux of our culture, is that lunchtime connection. Some days it doesn't always line up, but 80% of the time we share lunch together. And birthdays are a really big thing for us at Paul Sebastian. So there's always cake, there's always coffee going, that we've Italian background, we've always got the macanettes going on. Everyone's always bringing cakes and things and sharing, what they've made or wanting to share something from their culture. And that's really nice and exciting for the team. And then we celebrate milestones. So we always have, it's something so simple, but being able to take a break from the workroom, I guess, and building that relationship sort of outside the workroom then makes for a stronger team in the workroom, I think. And then when it's collection time, we kind of really try to make sure that, one, they're fully across what the inspiration is, so they're all on the journey with us, and then they have ownership of that.
Yeah.
And so when we did the Disney collection, the Once Upon a Dream collection, that probably was the best example of that, because I gave everyone homework and they all had to watch Disney films.
Yeah.
So I said, you can't start the collection until you know what you're working on, because you need to put that magic and that energy into the pieces that you're creating.
Yeah,
and
it's a clear vision. Like, it's nothing stronger than seeing it, is it?
Yeah, and so we all, we took turns. They could all pick. We always have music playing, so they all got to pick their favourite Disney song played in the workroom while we're making the pieces. And it's just, little ways that you can just be very thoughtful, I guess, and make it fun. Probably by the end of it, they,
A whole new world.
Yeah.
I've heard a few times, but I think you're right. Actually, those simple, thoughtful things aren't things that people do, and it's actually going back to basics, because they don't have to cost a lot of money. They're little things that indicate that you care, you remember, you're excited about helping people come on to the next journey that you're about to embark upon. And it's really getting people clear on the things that are important, and getting to know each other is part of that journey, I think. And I
think being genuine about it as well, because if you're faking it, people see and they feel that. So you have to want to say hello to someone. You have to want to say, hi, how are you going? And I think that is something that people need to sometimes develop, that interest.
I love that. I know we could talk all day, so I'm going to ask my last question, your 3D question. The billboard that you'd have for leaders everywhere. If you could have a billboard that would, have a message you'd want to get across to leaders, what would that be for you?
I think starting with the dream is always so important, but to achieve your dream you need more than that. So you need your discipline, you need your determination, and you need your dedication to be able to do all of that. And I think that's something that I've taken from Disney, and it's something that Mary Costa, who's the voice of Princess Aurora, has passed down, from which Walt Disney passed to her. And when she said it, I was like, yeah, that is exactly right. You need all of those things, and you need to work at all of those things to make sure you achieve your dream.
Amazing. Always so inspiring. We could sit here and chat all day. Honestly, I think part of that humility that you have is and vulnerability, and that real genuine drive to be caring and thoughtful for your team is what makes you stand out as a leader. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.